Welcome to this Adoration Talk, Radical Acceptance When You Think You Can't. I am Sister Sarah Hennessey, the Adoration Coordinator for the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, who have been praying constantly for the needs of the world since 1878. When we live with a chronic illness, addiction, or mental health issue, sometimes it feels like life does not make any sense. Coming from my own experience and from our spiritual tradition, I would like to share ways to find meaning within suffering. Many have found that when living with a chronic health issue, it helps to have a search for the sacred. Viktor Frankl writes that one of the ways to find meaning in life is by the attitude we take towards unavoidable suffering. Man is not destroyed by suffering. He is destroyed by suffering without meaning. Friedrich Nietzsche also says, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. When we know why we live, suffering becomes more bearable." But knowing the why of our existence is not a static fact. It's a process. The search for the sacred becomes a lifelong process to help find a life worth living. A spiritual path becomes a way for dealing with things that are difficult. Another way to understand spirituality is a reckoning with and acceptance of our imperfections. Acceptance is a basic tool at the center of many spiritual paths for dealing with chronic health issues. Let's look at 3 basic tools of acceptance: mindfulness, radical acceptance, and 12-step spirituality. John Kabat-Zinn explains mindfulness as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. To be mindful is to be in the present, to be aware of feelings, thoughts, the body, and the world around us. One of the simplest ways to be mindful is to pay attention to your breath. Focus on the sensation of the breath going in your nose and out of your mouth, or feel your belly rising and falling with each breath. Once you've focused on the breath, widen your attention and notice the sights, sounds, and sensations around you. Finally, don't judge each sensation or idea as good or bad. When you feel judgments rising, just return to your breath. Mindfulness is also good to practice when eating or when walking. The simple idea is to be present in this moment without judgment. The skill widens our ability to accept reality and to be in our own life, no matter what is going on. Radical acceptance is a skill from dialectical behavior therapy in which you totally accept who you are in the present moment. You release judgment and create the opportunity to take responsibility for your own part in your present reality. Radical acceptance is a skill that works on accepting our daily experiences. It doesn't happen overnight, but is an ongoing process. Let's try radical acceptance now. You're rushing home and are stuck at a red light. Instead of boiling over in anger, radical acceptance would be to breathe deeply and tell yourself, "It's okay. I'll get there when I get there." We simply acknowledge reality. Fighting reality only creates more suffering. Sherry Van Dyke says, "While pain is inevitable in life, suffering is optional. And suffering happens when we refuse to accept the pain in our lives. We release suffering when we begin to accept reality." Another tool for accepting reality comes from the 12-step spirituality, such as Alcoholics Anonymous and other addiction recovery groups. In the first 3 steps, we come to see that our lives are out of control and that there is a source of help that is outside of ourselves. One way to paraphrase these first 3 steps is, I can't, God can, let God. It sounds simple, but this can actually be the lifelong process of recovery. We admit we have a problem, we recognize there is a higher power, which is any source of help outside of ourselves. And then we turn our life and our will over to the care of this higher power. Not one time, not just by saying it, but over and over again with our whole life. By showing up to groups and by working the steps, many people in 12-step spirituality have found this to be a path to a life worth living. Carl Rogers says, "The curious paradox is when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Acceptance, through the tools of mindfulness, radical acceptance, and 12-step spirituality, can be a concrete skill to search for the sacred, to make meaning out of suffering, and to help live with chronic illness. It's about starting where you are, in this moment, with just this step, and then we begin to realize that we are not alone, but on the path that is so much bigger than us. We are connected. Know that we are always praying for you, and that you can reach us by phone, text, internet, and mail. May God bless you and keep you.